Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Adel Marcy Unplugged. I'm your host of the most, as always, Adel Marcy, and I told you guys, Season 4, Legends Edition, we bring on the best people we can find around the world that I consider legends, and this week is no exception. We got none other than Joe Schriefer. Did I say that right? Schriefer?
Yes, sir. You nailed it.
Awesome. Cool. I was wondering if I said it wrong. But Joe works down at Agora Financial. The guy's a killer. He's an absolute legend when it comes down to direct response, and we're going to talk a little bit about his results. But I got introduced to him by our other guest, Jonathan Riviera, and I've seen Joe's name everywhere because I've had David Garfinkel. He was interviewed by David, and I saw that. I was like, man, I'd love to interview that guy, but I don't think I can get in touch with him. And Jonathan Riviera was like, hey, I'll introduce you. I was like, great. Just, fun stuff like that as you do between friends. So, Joe, welcome to the show and the madhouse, as I like to call it.
Cool. Well, thank you. Like we were just saying before, you hit record, that there are no secrets in my book. I believe in the idea of abundance. So I am happy to share anything and everything that would help everybody who's listening here right now. And hopefully, we can make everybody a bunch of money and introduce some new ideas into the world today.
Oh, dude, I'm totally down for that. That just makes me so much happier that I find someone that can actually do the exact same thing I do in that sense. So, real quickly, to shout out to our sponsors of the show, as always, we're sponsored by adelamarcy.com. Go there, check out previous shows that we've done, also sign up to our mailing list. For future shows, storysellingemails.com, which is an email training that I've put out there for you guys. You guys can just understand the strategy behind how I write emails that convert and keep people looped in. And also by agorafinancial.com. Of course, you guys can reach Joe personally. He's going to give you his email address later at the end of the show. But right now, more than anything, my first question to you is, how did you get started in direct response? Because, people on my show have heard me talk about it, but I'm curious about how you got started.
Sure. So I always like to say it was completely by accident. I'll give you my quick 2-minute story. But I went to school I graduated with a bachelor's degree in something called mass communications, which to this day, I'm not exactly sure what it means. So, I get out of school and I'm working retail at Sports Authority, the sporting retailer that has since went out of business. Sports Authority. We hang out with a friend, and I couldn't do this because I was working weekends with her. So I started interviewing for a couple jobs. I interviewed for 3 jobs in the same day. One was physician's marketing assistant. Again, I still don't know what that is, just like mass communications.
Yep.
The second thing was Agora, and the third thing was at a headhunter. And Agora was the job I did not want. I just didn't know what they did. I couldn't really understand it after looking at their profile. But yet they were the only one of the 3 that actually offered me a job. So I haphazardly found myself taking that job only because I didn't have to work on nights and weekends and I can go drink beer with my friends. So I took that job. It paid shit, but I took it because, again, it was paying more than what Sports Authority was paying me, and I didn't have to work nights and weekends. So I really haphazardly fell into Agora. For 6 months, I had no clue what it is we did. I thought we were a big junk mail company. And then somewhere around my 6-month anniversary, someone showed me how to actually tell how many people that we were mailing all this junk mail to, how many people were responding. And that's kind of when I got hooked. And that's when I began to look at everything direct response related and found out how awesome it was that with words, we can influence people's action in a very, very measurable direct response sort of way. So that's kind of my 2-minute spiel. Agora was the job I didn't want. It was the only job that did hire me. And, my life changed from that time 16, 17 years ago, whenever it was.
Wow. So I was going to say, I wonder when that began. And now it's like, you just told me 17 years ago. That's crazy that you basically started out almost around the same time I did.
Yeah, I was a little bit older than you. So I was
just barely.
I was 10 years older than you, I think, when you started. I wish I would have found it when I was 12 years old. I didn't. I was too dumb until I was about 22, 23 years old to really stumble my way inside this industry.
Dude, I'm 28. I'm still considered pretty dumb by most standards, so it's always fun. But something I'm really curious about here, because the thing I've always found in financial copy, and it's one of the reasons why I've never really gone into it, is I have this weird innate fear that I'm going to fuck it up. So you actually have a system around teaching people how to write financial copy, right? Because I know that's something, it's called copyboarding or something that you guys do over at Agora.
Correct. Yeah. So really, it's not just financial copy. It's our way of getting new copywriters up to speed as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if it's finance or health or survival or personal development. Really, all copyboarding is a way to try to anticipate the objections that the reader is going to feel after they hear your idea, and then organize those objections, and then use your copy in a way to overcome those objections in a very systematic way to walk through a persuasive sales piece. Because one of the big problems that I see, we have about 35 copywriters on staff here in Baltimore.
Wow.
And because we have 35, there's probably not 35 amazing copywriters in the world. So our 35 copywriters that we have on staff are pretty young in their careers, a lot of them, and they don't know how to write a long form sales letter yet. So what copyboarding does is once they have an idea, it just allows them not to fuck up that good idea in 30 pages. So it's just a way to structure that 30-page promotion without fucking themselves up.
Okay, so I'm curious though, why is it 30 pages? Because this is why I always say to people, I can usually sell as much as I do in 5 pages versus 30 pages. But I'm just always curious why it's always more.
Yeah, so we test this all the time.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you that.
We test it all the time, and all I can tell you is I don't know why. I could just tell you what works. And anytime we write longer copy, it works. So, I don't know what at some point it would degrade the response, of course. If we wrote 4-hour video sales letters, it probably wouldn't work as well as an hour. But I'm not sure how long, that attention span is for our customer. I'm sure at some point it has an end life. But for us, we typically write, 30, 35 pages. If you translate that over into a video sales letter, our average length is around an hour. And again, we'll test this every 6 months. We cut that hour-long sales letter down to a half an hour, down to a 15-minute. And every single time we cut it, it continues to lose. So, this is going to differ per market too, right? Like the market that we write to in financial copy for Agora Financial tends to be someone who's at retirement age, approaching retirement age rapidly, or past retirement age, who is of that typical reader world. They've been used to reading the newspapers their whole life. They've been used to reading novels their whole life. They've been used to reading a whole lot in their life. My guess, of course, is that if someone's writing to the much younger audience, the Twitter world, the Facebook world, then I'm sure that shorter copy is going to win or is winning at some point. But for right now, our typical avatar does have a decent amount of time on their hands. They're used to reading. So that's why I think it's still our long copy that's working, whereby in some other markets, some shorter copy might work because maybe it's writing to that younger audience who has different attention spans.
See, I love the fact that you actually touched on that, because it is down to who you're writing to.
Absolutely.
The way I've always positioned my copy is that most of my customers most of my clients write to people below the 50-year-old mark.
Yep.
And it's not just the attention span thing, it's the fact that they're bombarded on what market they're in. Like financial, you need to know your stuff. You need to understand what's there. Whereas shorter form copy, like 5, maybe 10 pages total, is a completely different feel than what it is. And that's what it is. I'm glad that you actually pointed that out, which brings me to this question that you just really struck a nerve in my mind, is how long does it actually take someone to write, say, a 30-page promotion? And the reason I ask that is because for me, when I sit down to write, I take a couple of weeks to process, and then I take about a week I take a couple of days to write, and then I take a day or two off, and then come back and edit, and then I send it into my client. So it's about a 4-week to 6-week process. Mm-hmm. How long does it take you guys to actually write a 30-page mailer to go out?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I'm going to give you an answer, and then I'm going to give you a quote that I love, and then I'm going to give you a little bit more insight if that works for you.
Yeah, it works perfectly for me.
The quick answer is it takes on average about 8 weeks to put out a promotion for our business right now. The quote that I like, however, comes from Abe Lincoln, and it's one of 2 of my favorite copywriting quotes that have nothing to do with copywriting. So this is an Abe Lincoln quote. And he said something like, if you give me 5 hours to chop down the tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe.
Yep.
So for us, if you give us 8 weeks to write a sales letter, I will probably think about the idea. I'll do the research for 4 or 5 weeks. I won't write a damn thing.
Yep.
For 4 or 5 weeks, I'll do a ton of research. I'll find out exactly where I believe the avatar is. I'll find out how saturated they are. I'll try to look for a new, unique idea that they've never heard before. Once I have that idea, I typically write it very quick. So if you look at me, in the 8 weeks, let's kind of dissect that a little bit. For me, it's probably 4 to 5 weeks on coming up with a big idea. Then it's probably a week, 2 weeks at max writing that idea. And then our business is pretty large and we deal with a heavily regulated industry. So we have a whole compliance team that we have to work with. So it's back and forth with the lawyers for about a week. And then maybe, it's to our designers for a couple days, and that makes up the 8 weeks. So for us, again, the most important part, though, isn't the actual writing. And that's where copyboarding comes in, because copyboarding, like I said earlier, just helps you not fuck up a good idea. The importance for our industry is to come up with a good, big idea, and that takes the majority of those 8 weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm glad that you actually said that, so everyone else that's listening to this, like, why can't you write, it took you 4 hours to write that entire funnel. Why did it take you 6 weeks? It's because I spent 4.5 weeks just basically looking at everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, you sharpen that axe for 4 or 5 weeks before you started to chop down that tree.
Yeah, because the way that my brain works, and it's something I've realized, even say for instance, because I don't know how things are going to go forward. I mean, there might be a time they end up working with Agora. Who knows? Because that's always I haven't worked in the financial market, but I've worked in 250 different niches and markets. It's financial is the only one I stayed away from, but survival, self-development, self-defense, all those are my favorite ones as well to write with. What I'm getting at is when you're writing those sales pieces, I like to do things done right rather than, so the whole thing is, that phrase, I'd rather have it done than it be perfect.
Yep.
I don't believe that. My thing is I'd rather be done right than done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's done wrong, it's what's the point of even doing it?
Absolutely. There are certain people that come to our business and they say, look, I'm going to write you a sales letter in 2 weeks. And I know it's going to work, right? Because they're not going to think hard about the idea. They're going to give me a sales letter in 2 weeks. It's going to be 30 pages. It's going to look like a sales letter. It's going to have subheads in the proper place and the close and the call to action. The problem with it is it's going to be a shit idea because they haven't thought about the idea.
Yep. And it's something that so few people even really think about, to its full extent, is how ideas are formed and why they need to be put in the place they are. At the end of the day, fair enough, I can say to people, I can probably verbalize your sales letter in about 6 or 7 minutes, which I can do. But something that's a great idea, for something that is being mailed out, there's a big difference. If you're sending something that's mailed out, no, that's going to take time.
Yep.
And practice and understanding. Right now I can do that just because, I've got a decade of professional work and I've got 16 years of daily practice. I can get down to that. But even then, if I'm writing for a new market, hell yeah, I'm researching the crap out of it. I ain't going to send you anything that's less than perfect for me. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. If I send, the best way I can put this for the people that are listening, if you try and send something to, say, Agora, the best thing I would say, and I'd even ask Joe's input on this because it's just my thought process and it's great to have the guy that's here. I'd put something together that's a brilliant idea for their marketplace and I would research the hell out of it. And then I would write it, and I'd even personally go ahead and do what Halbert used to do, which is I'd find my target niche, and this is how I do my research. I'd find my target market person, go out to them, read them the sales letter or give it to them, and ask them to get back to me with some feedback. And if their feedback is anything less than, where can I get this? It's not a good enough job. Or if it's this is good, I would totally buy, but I don't have the money, that's fine too. Because then it's ready to mail, in my opinion. At that point, it's ready to send off to Agora to be like, hey guys, I wrote this letter. It took me a couple of weeks to get done. Blah, here you go. And these are the results.
That's exactly right. When we give sales letters to people to get feedback before we go out and mail them, you're exactly right that the answer you don't want is, oh, that's interesting. The answer that you don't want is, oh, it's written well. The only answer you want is exactly what you said. Where can I get this? How much can I pay you to learn more about what it is you're saying? That's the feedback that you want. Anything else is unacceptable.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's one of those crazy things where, the Halbert story, right? Where Halbert used to go into a bar and read out his copy to them and he goes, if they said anything else but that, he would throw the letter away and start again.
Yep.
Same thing.
Yep, same thing.
So I'd ask you on this question: how do you actually do your market research? Like, what's your method?
Mm. We're kind of lucky to the point that we have so many customers here at Agora Financial. So if you look at it, we probably are approaching close to 1 million unique customers, 1 million unique paying customers, people that are actively paying us stuff.
Yeah.
So the market research that we get really comes in by the day, right? It comes in with, we have a call center here in Baltimore. So you could sit on the phones and you could listen to the voices that call up, people that want to cancel their subscriptions with us, people that are interested in starting new subscriptions with us because they've read some of their sales letters, the fears and the frustrations and the desires that they have. So we're lucky in the way that we could hear from them on a daily basis. If we can't hear them on the phone, then of course they're not shy about writing us emails. So going through all of that feedback that we get when we mail out a promotion, both the feedback from the numbers of how many people subscribed or the feedback of how they felt about that idea if they didn't buy. So that is where we get a bunch of our market research. Of course, the other way is that we can upload them into Facebook and we can kind of reverse look at them as a group to say, are there avatars, are there profiles that seem to be similar after we mass upload these people, in an audience capture in Facebook. So that's really it. And then, for us, over the years of having that experience, we've kind of narrowed it down to, it's normally for us the same demographic, which I just kind of explained, like people that are at rapidly approaching or past retirement age, at some point that they've had the conversation to say, oh shit, I have money and I don't know what to do with it, or I don't have any money and I need to retire and I need to figure out how to make money. But, it's all basically the same demographic there. Of course, the psychographics will change a little bit depending on if there's someone that has money or someone that doesn't have money. But we kind of have the idea of 3 basic profiles that we talk to all of our new copywriters about. Of course, we allow them to explore, learning who our customers are for themselves. But during our training process, we do give them those 3 avatars based on our previous experience. So it's a long-winded way to say that we just listen to our customers because we have so many of them, and then we try to reverse engineer them through something like Facebook where we can get the rest of the data on their interests and their desires and their ages and things.
See, that's really interesting when you guys put it that way. Like, do you mind if I share with you how I do mine? Maybe you guys might be able to even implement some of this because I know you guys are a huge sprawling empire, but if there's someone that really wants to work with Agora, or maybe there's someone that's already there that wants to try this out, do you mind if I share something?
Absolutely. I'd love, to me, this is all about learning, both of us, right?
Yeah,
and all of us together in the community. So absolutely.
Dude, don't get me wrong. I'm actually taking notes on the side right now with a notepad. Like, you can't hear it, but I'm like silently taking notes. But one of the things I do differently for my research process is I actually, because once I get the avatar from my customer, who it is they want, I look at all their work and go, okay, this is who. After so many years, I kind of develop a second sense for it, or a sixth sense, for it, is I just kind of go into it and really understand who that avatar is. I actually find out everything I can about their avatar and then start watching their avatar's pop culture.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea too.
And hang out where their avatar hangs out.
Absolutely.
So I really start, like, say for instance, if one of my avatars, like, what were the 4 markets you guys work in? There's financial, survival, self-development. What's the last one?
Health is going to be the last one. So even though this is going to get a little confusing, so it's going to take 30 seconds of explanation. Even though we're called Agora Financial, we do own an alternative health publishing company as well called Health Sense Media. It's kind of underneath our umbrella at Agora Financial. So that's the 4th one, is going to be just alternative health information.
That's cool. So we've got health as well. So let's so just pick one for me, just one of the 4.
Yeah, let's say self-defense. Okay, you said that too.
Yeah, so like if your self-defense program is, say on, I'd find out what it is their self-defense style is. Like, the perfect customer, like, oh, they do yoga to get in shape. That's their thing, to get in shape. They can't defend themselves if things go wrong. So what I do, I go take up yoga for a month.
Yep.
I speak to a couple of people and I ask them, hey, so, I'm just curious about this whole self-defense thing, what it is, and find out what it is they're after, what goals they want to have. Actually go in there and even tell the instructor, like, look, I'm not trying to take anything away from you guys. I'm just curious. Do you guys mind if I actually interview a few people afterwards, just saying, I'm coming together like a self-defense company and I really want to find out exactly what they're looking for, like why you would want to buy. Like, why would you want to understand self-defense? because it helps me understand exactly what you guys want. Because if it's the wrong fit, then great, that's fine, but it gives me an idea. So I'd go to a yoga studio, find that stuff out. Great, now I know. And then I reverse engineer. I look at the pop culture they're studying. Okay, if your average customer for self-defense that really needs it is, let's say they're a woman between 21 and 35 years old. I know it's a huge range, but let's say it's 21 to 35 years old, they're a female, and they're looking to defend themselves. They do yoga, but they're scared of being attacked on the street. So, our self-defense program helps them with this. Now I've got that data in there. Okay, what do they like to watch? They like to watch the Desperate Housewives of whatever it is. Name a county. Mm-hmm. All right, start watching it. They like watching cartoons like Big Mouth or Rick and Morty or Archer. Great, start watching that. They like watching, they're vegan. Okay, fine. We start looking at vegan diets and why they actually work out. The majority of them are single. Okay, that's cool and good to know. They like going out on the weekends. That's good to know. What their favorite drink is, that's good to know. So I concoct this entire profile where I can actually point them out in a bar. I can pick them out of the lineup. I know who you are. And I start writing to that person. And then I find that person and read the copy to them. Mm-hmm. And that's basically how I reverse engineer my copy. But not read the copy because I don't write it out. What I do is I go there with a recorder and I tell them, hey, listen, I'm going to record this. And I just verbalize the copy to them. So I just do a verbal diarrhea piece where it's okay, so what I would do is discover how, blah, 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 if this is whatever it is, do the entire sales piece into them and what each module is going to contain. And I look at them and go, okay, so what's your response? And they're I would or I wouldn't. Once I know that I have that, if it's I would, I have a perfect set piece, send that over to rev.com, have it transcribed, and then start editing. That's basically my process.
That is fantastic. Because, that's where, again, you come back to the length of writing a sales letter. That's why you can't write that sales letter in a week, right? Because all of that stuff that you just said, going and doing that deep research that no one else in the world is going to fucking do is going to be the thing that makes your copy stand out, your idea stand out more than anyone else's idea out there. So you have to do that deep level research. Yeah. Doing the same thing on a much more micro level, for our people too, is luckily, I find myself even though I'm not in the same demographic as our readers, I do agree with the same topics. I'm passionate about the same topics. Most of our readers are on that conservative / libertarian spectrum of the political scale.
Yep. I find most entrepreneurs and business owners tend to be.
Once you start paying a lot of taxes, right, you quickly go from the left to the right.
Very quickly. I like my liberties from the liberal side, but let's be honest, I don't want to pay all the taxes. No,
that's exactly it. I don't want to support millions of Americans where I have no choice to do so. I'd rather give it to them in a charity work if I choose to do so myself. But I'll do the same thing where I'll go hang out on the online sources they're hanging out, right? There's not a day that goes by where I don't reload the Drudge Report 4 or 5 times. There's not a day that goes by where I don't check Fox News once to see what it is our people are being exposed to, what ideas they're hearing, how saturated they are. Because for us in the financial markets, we're always trying to find the top of mind story that's not being told. Yeah. So, if you reload the Drudge 15 times this week, chances are 10 of the 15 times you're going to see Trump at the top of the Drudge. Right. And it's going to be something about how Robert Mueller is trying to attack Trump right now with a different subpoena, yada, yada, yada. So I'm always looking, what's the angle of that that's not being told in the financial markets? So unless you do that deep dive research, unless you go to the places exactly like what you're saying, you go to the places where your avatar hangs out, you experience the things that they're experiencing. That's the only thing that's going to sharpen that axe. That's the only thing that's going to make your idea work. Before you ever put pen to paper, before you ever write a single word of your sales letter, knowing what your avatar stands for, knowing what they fear, knowing what they desire, knowing what they're exposed to, that's the only way you're going to get that good idea. So absolutely, man. I second your deep research, and I applaud you for it.
Oh, thank you. And there's something you said that was so powerful that I'm going to add to this. It's like, when you remember something that you used to do, but you don't really do anymore, but it's still beneficial because you unconsciously do it.
Yep.
I usually, when I look at news reports and stuff like that, my thing is I don't look at what they're talking about. I ask the question, what question are they answering? Mm-hmm. If they're talking about Trump is being attacked by Mueller, whatever it is. Okay, what's the question to that answer? The answer is Trump is being attacked by Mueller. What's the question they're asking? Mm-hmm. What's the question my audience member is asking? Because if I can find out what their question is, I can find a different angle for that same answer in my sales copy.
Absolutely.
It's a powerful subject on how you do that. So, okay, let's just jumping off that idea. Let's look at the idea of pricing strategies, because there's something that a lot of people really don't understand. And I mean, I had a hard time doing this for a very long time, but I'd love to get your opinion. When you're writing copy, how do you, well, it's two questions. One, if you're freelance, how do you set your prices that are correct based on your ability? And the second is, if you're working with Agora, what's the financial structure on that as well?
Sure. I'm going to answer the second one first, then I'll come back to the first.
Sure.
So we at Agora Financial, we are in a unique point in our business right now, whereby I am not the best person to deal with from a freelance perspective. So I told you earlier, we have about 35 copywriters. They're all internal here in Baltimore, and we have a small satellite office of 5 or 6 writers down in Delray Beach, Florida. So
do you guys have an office in London as well, right?
Correct. Yeah. So this will get on a little bit of a tangent, but we, Agora Financial, have a direct relationship, let's say, with a couple businesses around the world. We have an Agora Financial UK. We basically have an Agora Financial France/Paris. We have an Agora Financial Australia. At some point, we'll start a Brazilian company as well, and then we're looking into Germany as well. So that's a little bit unique. Agora has a bigger presence around the world with offices in South Africa and Argentina and different places like that. But we, Agora Financial, have direct relationships with those couple offices that I just mentioned: London, Paris, and Australia. So in the States here in Baltimore, though, we have built our team either in Baltimore or Delray Beach, Florida. And for us, the pay scale for us is, we have writers, because again, they're all employees. So, they get salaries and they get benefits and everything like that. Our lowest writer is probably making $35,000 a year base. Our highest writer is making north of 6 figures base. Everybody gets a royalty structure starting from day number one. Those royalties get anywhere from, let's say, $1/1%, all the way up to multiples of that. Without putting anyone's business too far out there, we have had we pay royalties quarterly too. So our highest salary does not go much above 6 figures as far as a base salary. But our highest copywriter last quarter got a royalty check for $1.3 million. Before that was about the same. So that copywriter might make $3.5 million this year. But the majority of that's coming from a royalty structure. Now, having said that, again, I've been out of dealing with freelance copywriters for a while because I've found it much more useful for our business and for the copywriter over the long run to find themselves here to work with us. And then I'll train them up. I'll get them experienced in financial copy quickly. I'll tell them about our systems and our strategies for developing ideas. So I found that to be more lucrative, both for the copywriter and for me and for our business over the past couple of years. When I was in the freelance business of dealing with freelancers, we'd pay anywhere from $3,500 flat, with a small royalty, let's say 1 or 2%, all the way up to maybe $15,000 or $20,000 flat, with a 4 or 5% royalty. So that's kind of the range that we were dealing with financial copywriters.
Wow.
I do give everybody royalties. I want them to have royalties. Every deal I do, they have skin in the game too.
Yeah, so, because, you always want them to make money back, and also it gives them an incentive to be good.
Absolutely, right? I've heard of other people doing these deals where they'll take a flat fee of like $25,000 from a client or something. And maybe that's right for them because maybe they're concerned that the client won't actually be able to track sales and pay them royalties. But, we're a big business. We track everything that we do. We give full transparency to all of our copywriters when we used to deal with them from a freelance side. So I incentivize everybody with skin in the game starting with day number one. So as far as how to price, yourself, the offer that no one ever made me that I would have taken in a second. And if God forbid, Agora shuttered its doors tomorrow, or I found myself not here for whatever reason, which wouldn't happen from my side. But if Agora Inc. decided I wasn't the right one for them, the deal that I would make and the deal that I always wanted people to make with me that no one ever did is to say, look, I don't want you to pay me any money up front. Give me a large portion of your net sales. So give me 10% of the people who buy and don't cancel. And I don't want anything up front. And I'll just prove it. I'll put the whole thing on my back. And I'm only going to get wealthy if my idea works. And if my idea doesn't work, then it's cost the client no money. So Obviously, that's a risk for the copywriter, but that's the deal that I would make is, look, I'm not going to take any flat fee. I'm just going to take a large royalty. And assuming that the client will pay you that royalty and they're an honest client, that's a deal that I would make.
See, I would totally do that, but I have this like weird stigma in my brain that I really can't do any copy unless I'm paid something. So I'll give you an example of this. I actually have run this deal before with someone where we did, I think it was 10% of net sales, and I said I wanted $1 up front.
Yep, there you go.
They're like, why $1? I was like, because I still need to feel like I owe something. Bear with me 1 second. I'll be right back. Just a second. Hold on. Sorry about that. Just still at a friend's place, and the door, like other friends were basically arriving because I'm at a client's place, and we did this huge video today. But anyway, so I'm getting at is like that did not work out well for me though. That was one of the instances where the copy I wrote converted, but the client didn't track their sales properly. So in the end, when we went through the tracking system, they just kind of like up and left with maybe around a good like $20,000-$30,000 that had my name on it. So I was like, damn it.
Yeah, that's what sucks too, is that I've never been part of that freelance game, from the opposite side. Yeah. I've been lucky enough to always work with Agora here, so I always know that we pay people. But I hear these horror stories about copywriters that, again, do deal with these businesses that for whatever reason they can't track the sales, they don't want to pay them, they're out of business, they don't have the cash to do it, which is crazy to me because, if someone's smart about running the business, the single thing that they should do to grow the business is always make sure that their copywriters get paid.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Just to give you guys an idea on this one, just so like you really understand what's going on. I've had something along the lines of like $300,000 taken out of my accounts for the last 10 years of people not paying me, and these are people that just like I've done a half and half deal, and like I get half the money up front, half after the sale, after the launch is done, and or after I do delivery and I get a percentage afterwards, or whatever it is, because I don't always do percentages, just simply because some clients don't want to. And I've had it where I wrote the copy and I'm like, great, we're launching, right? And like, yeah, we're not pursuing this idea anymore. I'm like, you signed the deal, you owe me the rest of this money. Like, no, we don't, and they just ghost me.
That's crazy, yeah. And then what happens, right? Copywriting is a small world, at least of the people who know how to do it well. Yeah. And that stuff gets around, right? So any client that doesn't pay their copywriter, that's crazy to me because it's such a small world and no copywriters are ever going to want to write for you again.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen it so many times where people just like, no, I don't, whatever bullshit reason it is. I've had people tell me like, what, if you charge more than $1,000 for copy, you're wrong. And I'm like, yeah, no, I charge a lot more than that now. And they're like, oh, cool, blah, 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 whatever it is. And the thing that really bothers me about people like this, I'm going to go on a tangent bitching for a moment. The thing that really bothers me with people who don't pay their copywriters, what you really don't understand, forget the fact that you are completely killing off huge amounts of potential for your business to work with other people and getting your ass basically handed to you because no one wants to work with you. What you're essentially doing is breaking rule number one of business, which is if you want your business to succeed, never stop spending money on sales and advertising. Those are the two places you should put all your money in constantly to bring in more money. And you wonder how come like your business has dried up. Well, it's because you didn't keep advertising, you didn't keep pushing forward. But hey, that's my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, that is just bananas, right? That someone would not spend money there. It's like you said, it's rule number one of business.
Yeah. Definitely. It's actually the reason why I became a copywriter, because it's funny because I read, it was an Agora piece as well. Because my story is I didn't go pro until I was 18 because I didn't know I was writing copy until I was 18. Okay. Like the first 6 years, I was like writing really stupid random things for my dad. And I'll tell you the story after the show because like my audience has heard it like 1,000,001 times now. But essentially what it was is that when I read it, what was it I did? I read an Agora letter about the world's coming to an end.
Okay.
The end of the world sales letter. I think that was either Agora. I think that was Agora that did that, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean that sounds like one of our multiple packages. We've had a couple big hits in that same doom and gloom type of style.
Yeah, I read that, and at the time I bought into the idea, but I didn't have, again, I wasn't your target audience and I didn't have money to invest. So what I did was I was kind of going, when I started to learn copy, because I was doing like web design, copy, trying to really find my feet. I was like 18 years old at this point. And I just sat and I was like, nope, copywriting's the master. Like once I got asked, got told that, hey, you're a really good copywriter, you should do this. I was like, okay, I'm kind of sold on this, but what I've never really told anyone up until now is it was that Agora letter that really made me realize, what if the world goes to shit?
Mm-hmm.
What's like, okay, web design, there's going to be no computers to design stuff. Okay, traffic buying, where am I going to buy traffic if there's like nowhere to buy traffic from? What if the world goes to complete shit tomorrow and we're knocked back into the Stone Age? What happens next? What's the master skill? Selling. Everyone's always going to need a salesperson. Get good at selling. Get good at writing copy, because you can always leverage that for things. You can leverage that for food, shelter, dates, build an empire. Okay.
Was that sales letter, was it by chance, was it the End of America sales letter? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That was one that we did not write here at Agora Financial. It was written by another Agora affiliate called Stansberry and Associates that I'm probably the most jealous of that sales letter, as is probably any other financial copywriter. That was the one where everybody wanted to write that version of it. It's been the most successful acquisition piece of sales copy in the financial business ever.
Oh yeah, hands down, without a doubt. Stansberry is amazing in their own way, the way they do it. Yeah, that's insane. All right, so real quickly, because we're getting to that part of the show, I wanted to ask you, like, there's 3 questions I always ask my guests, and the first one I want to ask you is, if you had to name 3 books that had the biggest impact on you, and there are some parameters, so I'm going to give you the parameters, and the parameters are this. The first 2 are actual books that are non-fiction. And the third book has to either be fiction or a movie. Okay.
Okay.
So on those parameters, what were they?
Okay, so I'm going to cover the nonfiction as I think about the fiction. Nonfiction, I would say Oren Klaff's Pitch Anything. I don't know if you know Oren.
Yep, I love Oren stuff. It's amazing.
Oren's great. I had him come out to speak to our copywriters maybe 6 months or so ago from his home in San Diego. I'm a huge, huge fan of the psychology in that book, and a huge fan of dealing with the different areas of the brain and understanding how that works as it's related to how sales messages enter and are received by the brain. So Oren Klaff's Pitch Anything, I think, is amazing. Second book I would say would be Dan Kennedy's Making Them Believe. Have you read that one?
I have not, but it's on my wish list that I need someone to send to me.
Amazing, amazing book about how a charlatan in the early 1900s posed as a doctor and got young men to insert goat testicles in themselves as a way to become men again. Mm-hmm. So it's this ridiculous idea, but the way that if you could take out the felony stuff that he did, and if you can learn from psychology, just an amazing way of how he made people believe that would happen. So those are my 2 nonfiction books, I would say. Oh, geez, fiction. I don't read a lot of fiction. You know, I'm a nerd so much for biographies and things like that.
But that's the thing. That's why I said movie as well. Yeah.
So, geez. My favorite copywriting quote comes from the movie Seven. So I'm going to give that to you, even though that has no relation to copywriting whatsoever. The reason I'm picking that one, you know, Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, that movie Seven, Kevin Spacey in it. The reason I give you that is that it's got my favorite copywriting quote in it. I told you earlier that I had 2 favorite copywriting quotes. One was Abe Lincoln. You know, you give me 5 hours to chop down the tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. My second favorite quote comes from the movie Seven, and it happens at the very, very end of that movie, if anyone's familiar with it, where, you know, this gentleman named John Doe, who is Kevin Spacey, commits all these heinous, heinous crimes. And the final 2 crimes are left unsolved, and he turns himself into police, who is Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. And he says, look, I'll take you to the final 2 crime scenes, but it has to be you 2 detectives who take me. So you got John Doe in the back of the police car. You got Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman driving him to the final 2 crime scenes. And Brad Pitt is asking him all these questions, you know, why he committed these murders as terribly as he did. And John Doe says to him, we live in a world where you can't just tap people on the shoulder anymore and expect them to pay attention. You have to hit them in the face with a sledgehammer and only then will you have their strict attention. So, I think you relate that back to copywriting, right? We live in a world where people are being bombarded with messages that you can't just have this benign headline anymore and hope you get attention. You have to hit people in the face with a sledgehammer to get their attention nowadays. So that is why I'm listing that one, even though it has nothing other than that to do with copywriting.
Hey, don't knock it. I mean, one of my favorite movies ever is still Limitless, and that has nothing to do with copyright. Well, the original book has something to do with copywriting, the movie doesn't. And that's basically on the whole idea that, what's it called? Most people use a fraction of their brain. Whereas if you truly start using all of it, and you can use all of it, well, not use all of it, but you know what I mean, you can use more of it, and you start seeing different things. And that's just the whole way it is. So my other question for you is there's something you said that it's one of the requirements of being at Agora, which is being able to fail without feeling like a failure. Now, obviously, I've been there as a freelancer, and I think everyone has some degree. What are some of the things that you guys teach, or even at least show people that when you have failed, you can get right back up? Like, what is one of the things that you guys actually instill as a core belief?
Yeah, it's really just that core belief that all of us are failing. If you're not failing, you're not trying. So it's just a mindset shift that we try to put everybody into, and we are fully transparent about all of us. We have no egos. It's tough to have an ego in this business when you're failing 50% of the time, even as a great copywriter with us. So it's access. I guess the only resource that we give our writers is access to other very good writers who are constantly failing because they're constantly trying to innovate new things. So that is really the only resource that we give to them, is the discussion that they could have with people that are doing the exact same thing that they're doing, who have both succeeded many times and who have failed many times two, probably. So that's the big thing. We talk to them a lot about mindset, and things, and try to shift them into that perspective that, every time they fail is a learning opportunity, not a failure. But that's the only resource that we give them, is just access to all of us who have both had our successes and had multiple failures at the same time.
Yeah, we failed more than you guys have, so that's why we can just, pick you back up and tell you it's not that much of an issue anymore.
Exactly.
Right, cool. So I guess my last question is my favorite one to ask as well. If you could give 3 pieces of advice to anyone that is going through like a hard time, whatever it is, what would you tell them? Like, what 3 pieces of advice would you tell them? Like, they've either plateaued or they're not able to get themselves out of a well. What 3 pieces of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would say number one is just how powerful action is. I see a lot of people who get stuck and they don't know what to do next. They have paralysis by analysis. They are afraid of failing again for whatever reason, put them in this well that they're currently in. And therefore, they sit there and they're paralyzed like a deer in the headlights. Like, you write for the self-defense industry, so you're going to get this. But, the number one thing that people get hurt from in times of catastrophe is just paralysis. Most people freeze when times get tough. Yep. The people who succeed are the people who act. Not that they may be acting the right way, but the fact that they're just acting, the fact that they're moving in any direction whatsoever is an important step. So I would say that number one is just to move. Try something, do something, learn from something. Don't sit there with paralysis because they don't know what to do next and they're afraid of failing. I would say the second thing is I'm a huge believer that the mind and the body is connected, and not in some woo-woo way, but I believe that your cognitive ability is directly associated with your physical output. So I believe that getting out there and not only acting and moving mentally, but acting and moving physically will lead to good things, from a cognitive benefit as well. So that would be the second thing. Is get into some type of exercise routine, get into yoga, like you mentioned earlier, get into meditation. And again, I'm not a woo-woo type of person.
Yeah, it's just a thing that you do.
That type of stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
The third thing I would say is surround yourself with people that you want to be. Surround yourself with people that aren't holding you back, people that aren't criticizing you, people that aren't laughing at you. Surrounding yourself with the heroes that you want to turn into, everybody would be shocked at how, you'll begin to gravitate towards greatness when you surround yourself by it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough for a lot of people because a lot of people always want to be the smartest person in the room. A lot of people that they may say they want to surround themselves with greatness, but when it comes down to a deep psychological side, their ego doesn't allow them to do it. Their ego surrounds them with shitty people because they feel like superior to those people. But if you can feel superior to these great people around you, you'll gravitate towards a better life. So that would be the third thing, is just surround yourself with the people that you want to be. And again, I know that's not, a great original quote from me, but surround yourself with the 5 people you want to be, and you'll gravitate towards it.
That's awesome, dude. Guys, thank you. Joe, thank you for being here. And guys, go listen to this again, because what Joe and I share is a hell of a lot of great stuff. And one thing I'm going to ask everyone to do, and ask Joe if it's okay, if you have any questions, reach out to him personally. Joe, is your email still Joe Schriefer at agorafinancial.com or J Schriefer?
Correct. It's J Schriefer, and I'll spell that for everybody. So just the letter J, and then Schriefer, S as in Sam, C as in Charlie, H, R-I, E, F as in Frank, E-R at agorafinancial.com. So J, S-C-H-R-I-E-F-E-R at agorafinancial.com. And again, anybody that wants to know, copywriting stuff, that's probably where my quote unquote area of expertise is, but I've got a lot of experience in tests that we've run from a marketing side, traffic that we've driven, mistakes we've made. We've pretty much 10x'd our business since I've been here.
Yep, that's the other reason. I forgot to mention that, but yeah, guys basically increase their turnover by 10 times just because you're kind of amazing.
Yeah, and we've made so many mistakes along the way. So if someone is stuck at the point, if they're not a copywriter, if they're an entrepreneur, if they're a small business owner listening to this, and they may be stuck at a sales plateau, say at $1 million or 2 million or 500,000 or 10 million, whatever it might be, that's probably all mistakes that we have made at that point in our business that I might be able to shed some light on and help some people out. And it's a small world, so you never know where these relationships go in the future.
Awesome. I freaking love it. Guys, go check Joe out. There's so many great things. I'm going to be hitting him up for a couple of things as well. Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. I hope to get you back on in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you. I enjoyed talking to you. Hopefully everybody got some good value out of it. Let me know how I could help you and your crew in the future.
Definitely will do. Thanks, dude. See you soon.
Thanks.